Welcome to another interview of Swiss Boss Mama. Today I'm joined by Julia Carneiro, communications expert, project manager, mom of three, and a passionate advocate for inclusivity. Julia turned her son's profound hearing loss diagnosis into a powerful mission for awareness. Today, she will walk us through the process that took her to create Amplify, a non-profit to support families with children with hearing impairments. Once again, thank you to the Home Hotel for hosting us. Julia, welcome to Swiss Boss Mama. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I would love to start by getting to know you a little bit better. So who is Julia?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me, Annabelle. It's a pleasure to be here on your podcast. Who is Julia? Well, I was born and raised in Kenya, and then my family and we moved to the US to bring the family together. And from the US, through my university studies there, upon completion, I started working in the US, but then my professional journey brought me to Germany, and then later now to Switzerland.
And you were doing all of this while also becoming a mom of three wonderful children.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, I have three wonderful children. Yes, aged 13, 11, and 8.
Also, the third child came with a little challenge that you didn't see coming, you didn't foresee. If you can elaborate a little bit on this.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, my youngest son was born deaf. We received the diagnosis that he is profoundly deaf. Or he has profound hearing loss and is close to death. So yeah, that was a bit of a shock at that moment. But now looking back, it was like it opened so many doors and so many. It opened my eyes to a different world and a different community that I never really put thought to. So I'm so happy that he was brought into our family.
That is wonderful. A great silver lining.
Yes, it's
After
true.
all, right?
Yes, it's right.
This adventure with him has made you start a whole new journey professionally.
Yes.
Which is called Amplify.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Amplify?
Yes, once my son was born and along his journey, learning with him and about him, often my husband and I would find ourselves saying, I wish I knew this earlier, or I wish we heard this earlier, or that would have helped, and this is great. But yeah, at an earlier point, we take it forward, but maybe a few months earlier, this would have helped him a little bit more, but nonetheless, okay. And during this time, we started to think, well, maybe other families are also saying the same thing. And so this was what the seed that sparked Amplify, which is a nonprofit organization to help other families with information on best practices to help their child with hearing loss. And it targets teachers, it targets parents, and it targets caregivers, because these are the people who work or spend the most time with children. It's important for parents to know, because as a parent, I was always asking our therapist, what can I do to help my child? And I started asking a lot of teachers, would you know where you'd get information? And I noticed that, okay, the caregivers, they are trained first aid and everything to work with children, but it's important to also to know little things to watch children if they notice that this child is very visual or certain things are not reacting to sound. Then it's important to talk to the parents and give them a tip to have a hearing test, because if it's nothing, then it's no problem. But if it's something, you gain valuable time because it affects your speech later.
Absolutely.
So this is like thinking of all these topics. We thought this would be a good place to have one central place where these target groups could go for information.
And how does a non-profit start? Is it a company?
It is a company, but it is a company, but because to make sure that people see that you can start it without registering it, but for people to actually take you seriously and to know that it's something that you're going to pull through. I had Amplify registered, so we're registered here in Zurich, and it's just to show, it's like evidence to show, okay, this is something that I'm not just talking about, it's something that I'm going to pull through. It says, and so there are different things. You have to have statutes, you have to develop not policies, but you have to have a vision, your mission. You have to think about where do you want to go, start building a plan of what it is. What exactly do you want, and what differs you? What's the difference between you and the other organization? So it's like that business plan and developing it a little bit, that sets you out.
From an economical perspective,
Yes.
when somebody wants to start off a company in Switzerland, there is the GmbH option or
Yes.
the AG option,
Yes.
right? And there is an investment that has
Exactly.
to be done. Is it the same thing with a nonprofit?
No, with a nonprofit, you don't have to have any starting capital. What you do have to have is a board with at least 3 people, 3 different people. So it can be my husband, my sister, and so it's not like a family little thing, but 3 different, at least a minimum of 3
Non-related
non-related people who would sign on and have their name on the board, because yearly you have to have a meeting where everyone comes together, where you go through, where you talk about like what you've done in the year.
Okay, super interesting. And up until today, what challenges have you had to overcome that you like to highlight?
At the beginning, I thought it's a little more than 3 years ago, and I thought I'd be much further along. Honestly, I started with this big vision, and I was like, I'm going to conquer the world, and I had all these plans. But then the reality of it is you have to start small. You have to take simple and baby steps to reach that goal, and you have to be okay with not being so successful on some days, and other days, even the smallest little hurdle that you manage to overcome is a huge success in this world. Because in a nonprofit, or in my situation, it's I think cognitively sometimes I feel like a mess, because I am the CEO, I'm the marketing manager, I'm the communications specialist. You juggle all these roles, and on top of it, I have 3 children. So trying to keep everything together.
I know.
Under one roof. So it's hard as a very organized person to feel this mess, and to deal with this mess.
I mean, hats down. You've done a lot of things already in these 3 years, and I'd like for you
Yes.
to actually highlight. Let's
Yes.
do an exercise now of
Yes.
also highlighting what have you achieved so far that you really are proud of.
Well, in each year, when I do my annual report, I'm always surprised, because sometimes I feel like, oh, I would have loved to be further. I would have loved to do more. And then I think back, well, year 1, I survived. Year 2, I survived. Oh, year 3, I'm still here. I survived. So it's really each year to pull through, and looking at the highlights. In the first year, just getting my name out there. I just founded Amplify, and then having the courage to go to conferences, because it was important for me not to only to have the view as a parent, but to understand what the specialists have for information, what the audiologists get, what's open to the different these groups. And so I started attending different conferences, and getting my name out there, and talking about what my aim was, and getting a feel for it. And I remember in the first year I was so nervous, and slowly you build that confidence, and you go back to each event. And now going on my a little over 3 years, and it's really wonderful, because along this journey I've met so many wonderful parents or partners that are here to help, and are very encouraging. And they're willing. They say, what, here, you need me, I'm here for you. Or we're working on this project, why don't you help? And that's another thing I've learned, is like, although you have all these visions, it's also important to build a name for yourself. So you have this ambition to have a nonprofit, you know what you want to do, but for people and my partners to trust, or to build that trust and to build your name, you need to have a good foundation. So a lot of things that happen in the background. Last year I was able to help an audiologist who collects defective hearing aids, or hearing aids that have reached their life here in Switzerland. Every few years, or not few years, but every so many years, you get a new set of hearing aids. And so she collects those old hearing aids, she repairs them, She has a team who repairs them, refurbishes them, and then she sends them out into poor countries so that it's not just being discarded, but really being given a second life. And I had the pleasure of helping her last year, and bring hearing aids into Uganda and Kenya. And those hearing aids are helping families there who would have not had this access to this technology because it's so expensive and so difficult to get. But making this bridge between the organizations is a small success story, and it's not about me, it's about them, and I'm so happy
It's actually not small at all. I'm getting goosebumps already because it's like you're not only helping the families, but also you're into the sustainability environment, right?
Yes.
By making sure that these things are just not discarded,
Yes,
which is
yes.
also.
Yes, but it's such a beautiful project that she's doing, so that both parties want to do. And so just by being able to connect them both, or to try to find a logistical solution for them to reach East Africa, it was a bit of research and determination. But yeah,
Congratulations.
it worked. It's
Congratulations.
a beautiful
That's
story.
really
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Nice. And you stopped completely your career.
Yes.
How did that transition happen for you?
I was working full time. I had my kids and my family at home, and on the side, I had just founded Amplify. And juggling all these three things, they're big things to keep in the air. I decided, I was starting to be really tired, and but then I wanted to be very present, because if I take on something, I want to be there. So I decided that it was really important for me to to sort of reflect on what do I want going forward, what's important for me. And yeah, at home, having the conversation, because it's not just about me, it changes a lot at home, and
It's
our
the whole
family
dynamic.
exactly. There's
Especially
a lot
in
of
a
going
country
into
like Switzerland, it's a big decision to make.
exactly. We have to be we're a good team, so we sit at the table and discuss, okay, do you see this, do you this would change, how do you see this, and even giving the kids a voice as well, because they're part of the family. How do they see it, and it gives fresh perspective, because sometimes there are things that we never thought about, and then they, from their view, how it would affect them. But in the end, it was a good suggestion. It was a good move for me. It was a very scary move, because I'm giving up my job, my financial stability. But we're saying, okay, we'll scale back, not a problem, and we'll focus on that, because I think going forward, even if I help, it's just a different satisfaction by helping one family and having one child, and you'll be able to scale that and have a ripple effect, and people learn about it and use you more. It's such a comforting
It's more purpose
feeling.
driven
Yes,
than working in an office.
yes,
Absolutely.
exactly. So it was something that kept going, and I just realized, I had to make some big changes, because having all these three things in the air at the same time were not sustainable. And I really wanted to keep up Amplify, because I see its potential. It's difficult, I'll give you that, but it has a lot of potential. And from there, I said, okay, I can't do both. I need to leave one thing down, and that was my job. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's a brave decision, but we are already seeing some big and very good points, successes that we were saying before.
Yes,
For
yes.
example, in that sometimes is more valuable than
Yes, it's
money.
true.
Of
It's
course, we
true.
need the money to
Yes,
live,
of
right?
course, of
As
course.
long
It
as
has
that
to have a
is
balance.
working,
Yes, it's right.
that is
It's
perfect.
right. It's right.
Let's bring in some awareness about hearing loss.
Sure.
How much of the population worldwide approximately is suffering hearing loss?
Well, from the World Health Organization, they say that about 430 million people are affected from hearing loss. That's huge. I think if you were to picture it, you could picture the population of the United States of America and Canada put together. That's approximately the number of people in the world.
Never thought about it.
It's crazy. It really is. And it's some form of hearing loss, from mild to profound hearing loss.
And how did you discover the one in your son?
Well, he had to go through a hearing test. So when he had the newborn hearing screening, which in some countries it's mandatory, and like in Switzerland, and so after birth he he has to pass this hearing test, and many times he didn't, but we never thought there was something wrong because he was very visual, and children are very good about like not hiding it, but they know how to accommodate for this disability. So he was very visual, and his senses are heightened. So for example, a loud horn, we were on a boat and there was a loud horn and he looked up at it. So I said to my husband, he heard that, so you know what, he can hear that. I think we just, once this hearing test, we'll soon have it behind us, stamp in the book, and we're done. And then when we finally got the diagnosis, it was kind of a shock because he couldn't have heard that sound. His hearing was so bad that there was no chance of him hearing this horn. He could stand underneath an airplane where you would need ear protection, and for him it would be a light buzz. That's how bad his hearing loss is. And yeah, it was a bit of a shock, because we knew nothing about hearing loss and the new challenges that were there for him, or what this meant for his journey forward. But we had a wonderful group of specialists who first a psychologist who came to visit us, talk to us, tell us what was ahead of us. Then we had audiologists who would come to our house every week and work with him and train him and show him and describe things. And it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of showing, it's a lot of being there and a bit being present. And you learn a lot of things along the way with that. Yeah.
What are limitations that people with hearing loss have in Switzerland?
Well, I think it's not only in Switzerland, it's similar everywhere. It's sometimes when you have a lot of background noise, it's very difficult to focus, and it's very tiring. I never knew this, or never, because when you're not affected by things like this, you really brush it off because you never really deal with the topic. But this was something out of that, learning with him, that he would just get so tired, because if there's a lot of noise, you're always hearing. And children or people with hearing loss, because when you're a baby and you can hear, you start hearing in your mother's womb, and when you're born, you hear all the sounds, so you're adjusted to it. You can tone out sounds and you can focus on sounds. You understand the tone in someone's language. Is it serious? Is it dangerous? Is it joy and happiness? Is it warmth? What are you hearing in the voice? These children haven't had that, so it's really their facial expression. They read lips, they read your body language. They're very good at it. They read you, and they take this with them. And that's why my son was very good. We thought he could hear, but because he was so visual, he was taking everything, but he couldn't have heard it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And since you have become more aware about this topic as years have gone by, you've become really invested and also giving speeches about it.
Yes.
To create awareness, as
Yes,
we
that's
were
right.
saying before.
Yes.
Have you realized in the work world there is a large percentage, or there's a large number of people who actually have hearing loss?
Many people don't talk about it. I think there's always a taboo about having a disability and not talking about it, because there's been a long history of oh, you have a disability, there's something wrong with you, but there's nothing about it. You have different strengths, and yes, you struggle to hear, but it's not. There are other things you can do.
As you said, maybe your visuals become much more accentuated.
Exactly. Or you have a good feel for it. Like, my younger kids would always say, why do we have to be quiet when he's sleeping? Because he can't hear us anyways. But the truth is, he could feel us. And although he was on the other side of the flat with the door closed, and the older two were playing and jumping around, he could feel it. He would not settle down, and he would wake up very quickly because he could sense that there was something going on. He was missing something. So I feel that in organizations now, slowly, more and more people are getting the confidence to say, I have this disability, I have hearing loss, I need accommodation, I cannot work underneath a fan because it's like a constant noise in my background. Or if we have calls, we have to have a video call because I need to see, or you have to talk clearly, please don't cover your mouth, or the microphone, if there's a lot of sound, it's double hard to hear and to understand it.
So here's an invitation
Yes.
for people who have issues or
Yes.
disabilities
To be
to
confident.
be confident and
Yes.
open about them.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
More and more, I noticed it working at the bank, because when I was having these talks, and many times, sometimes I would get a message later, and I would hear, you know what, I have hearing loss, but I never, like, because a boss would know about it, but not really spoken about. But there's nothing about it, Actually, I think there was a huge aha effect, knowing, okay, I never really thought about that. If I cover my mouth, or the audio or something, there's too much background noise, and you're trying to give a message, that you should cancel that out, so that you can focus on what's going on, or not everybody speaking at the same time. Just one at a time. I mean, that's something that affects us all, right?
Actually, yeah, it's good for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good way to have that, and also to give people confidence to say, I need this accommodation. And companies are moving forward. So they're moving forward to create accommodations for this, because it's not a big deal they're not big things that you need to change, and you have skilled staff that are ready to commit and do their work. So yeah.
So to this point, how can people in their normal lives, so in their
Yes.
day-to-day lives, and companies as well, become more inclusive in the topic of hearing loss?
I'd recommend just not being judgmental. If you see someone, you never know what's going on, and maybe they're not so not they're afraid, or they're not afraid, but they just don't, probably from their experience, they don't say, I have hearing loss, or in winter you have a hat on, you don't see it. But for example, when you go to the hospital and people are sick, you're asked to wear a mask. But that's for someone who's deaf or hard of hearing. I mean, with a mask, you lose all the everything you're trying to hear. You have to struggle to hear what's coming through that mask, and you lose facial expression. So it's just,
Completely lost.
So it's like, just be open and gentle with the people who you talk to, because you don't know what they have, and yeah, be more kind.
I think we have gone through everything I wanted to know, and I really hope that this interview is going to be this aha moment for many people out there, because as you very well say, many are completely unaware, some are a little bit aware but just look to the side.
Yes.
But well, it's something completely normal.
Yes, exactly.
We're born with things, with
Yes.
everything, right?
Yes.
We just carry our backpacks.
Yes.
So perhaps what I take out from this interview with you is to be more empathetic with the person we have in front, and know that everyone has something
Yes, exactly.
in the background, right? Be
Exactly.
it hearing loss, be it anything. It could be anything.
It could be anything,
This is
right.
actually one of the purposes of the podcast as well, to increase this empathy in
Yes.
general
Yes.
in the world.
Yes.
So
Yes.
hopefully this will work that way.
That would be wonderful. Yes, but I think everybody does it, and people are not. It's not a bad nature to say, oh, people don't do it with instinct to hurt someone, or that. It's just because if you were never affected by hearing loss, or you have no touch points with this topic, then there's no way of you knowing it. So by just being a little bit open, and not like just taking a step back to say, okay, let's see, that then you start to feel what's out there, and yeah, build more empathy to other people.
And this will actually help as well, because increasing a little bit the attention in the moment we're living with that person is transferable to every other stage.
Yes.
In the life of someone, and
Yes.
it brings so much benefit.
Yes.
So not only with person who is keen to tell you that they have some kind of disability,
Yes.
but to someone else who's having anything else. So
Yes.
let's just become more human.
Yes. And it's not big things that you have to change, and it's also living in countries with different languages and everything. Sometimes there are different challenges that come with that, but it's just taking a step to be a bit more relaxed, and not having, nobody has to say, I have this disability, for you to have that empathy. That's the other thing.
Exactly.
No one should have to come and tell you, okay, you have to be like this because I can't hear you.
Yeah.
It's something like common courtesy.
Yeah, but that's the point that I'm saying.
Yes.
About be more attentive
Yes.
with the person you have in front of you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
try not to be thinking about 1 million other things.
Yes,
So
that's right.
be more
That's
present.
right. Yes, you're right.
It's a really wonderful takeaway.
Yeah.
Julia, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this with you, and learning about hearing loss and all the things that you're achieving with Amplify. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you so
for
much,
the years to
Annabelle.
come.
It was a pleasure, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.